everybody. This is Gary Vaynerchuk, host of Wine Library TV, a.k.a. WLTV, and this is BBQ Central.
Happy to have you aboard here for the really big barbecue show.
Boing.
We cook because we have to, and we grill because we want to.
Hit me.
Fine, how's it going?
You have a great show. I'm a big fan.
Boing.
So what seems to be the problem here? This man looks like he's dead, and he's in the crackle.
Charbono! It's all about the charbono, dude!
Succulent fish, what?
He ate 54 wieners.
But listen, Lavernius, shut your face.
I'm shaking like a dog shit peach seeds.
We have top men working on it right now. Top men.
Welcome to the second hour. It's the Barbecue Central Show, where we talk about all things that are important to the world of barbecue and grilling. We do it live right here every Tuesday from 9 to 11 p.m. Eastern. The show's being recorded. So if you're missing any of this, on Wednesday, you get hour number 1 in the podcast feed. On Thursdays, you get hour number 2 in the podcast feed. And we'll talk about Friday here in just a second because I had the whole promo written out. And then first thing this morning as I was getting my run in, got an email from John Solberg, and he said, hey, if you've already worked up your promo for this coming week's Best Moments show, I got some bad news. You're going to need to do it over again. I snuck in a different show last minute. As I reviewed it, it made sense. We'll talk about it here in just one second. The show is originating from
Palm City, USA. Cleveland.
Still to come on the show this evening, a barbecue legend, at least in my opinion, and should be yours, the one Jim Minion. We say good evening to those of you watching this show tonight through one of our video streaming platforms. You can go to facebook.com/BBQ Central Show. You can also go to twitter.com/BBQ Central Show. Or you can watch it over on YouTube, where a lot of people do it because there's a nice chat going on, and you can go there by visiting youtube.com/@BBQ Central Show. There is a new YouTube poll question of the week that we've been running through the first hour and asking both of our guests, and we'll get the update here. I was asking everybody, you believe that Sam's Club can sell a well-built, feature-rich grill at a value price? And currently, 54% of you are saying yes, you do believe that Sam's Club can pull off such a feat. We'll talk more about that after a little bit. But we've been running really close to 50-50 all the way through. In fact, at certain points, it's been dead on 50-50. Hey, Bill Rempe checking in from Click City. That's Rochester. Crapchester, if you're from around those parts and you're allowed to say that kind of thing like I am. Not recently, but it was at one point. Coming up on the best moments of the Barbecue Central Show in 10 minutes or less this coming Friday, episode 334. We now take you back to May 30th of 2017. As I had mentioned not too long ago, this past Wednesday, the 10 finalists for the Barbecue Hall of Fame were announced exclusively here on the show in conjunction with the American Royal and Amy Mills from 17th Street Barbecue. In this Best Moments segment, I was not only joined by myself, I was also joined by my parents on the phone. And at that point, they were giving me their condolences and trying to bolster my spirits for not being picked on the Barbecue Hall of, or for not being picked for the Barbecue Hall of Fame again. Now, remember, this was 7 years ago. So the way it was shaking out back then, far different than the way it shakes out. And as we look at it here in 2024, am I still not in the Barbecue Hall of Fame? Yes, I'm still not in the Barbecue Hall of Fame. I take some time in this show to talk about the behind-the-scenes work that I have done to encourage the Hall of Fame to be more transparent about the whole process. And as time elapsed, moved on, eroded, to their credit, they have become truly open, truly transparent about everything, the process, the people included, the way they get to their decisions that are being made. That wasn't happening in 2017 and 2016 and 2015. Nobody knew how the hell it was happening. You were just sent a list and said, here's who's in the Barbecue Hall of Fame. And I spent a significant portion of time during those years going, who's in charge of that? How do you come up with that? They're just telling you what's happened with no ability to know any inside knowledge on how decisions are being made, how people are being nominated, what things are being taken into consideration. And again, as I said, everything has changed over the course of the years where now everything is out in the open, everything's talked about, to the point where a then Emily Park got in touch with the show and said, not only are we happy to talk about everything that we're doing and naming names and processes, but we would love to come on the show, partner with you, and announce exclusively who's in the Barbecue Hall of Fame. And then we did that for a couple of years. And then not only did we do that, we added who the finalists were here over the last handful of years as well. So you have a early date in May where we announced the 10 finalists. And then 2 weeks after that, typically, we give the final announcement of who's going to be making up the class. So as I had mentioned, week after tomorrow, or 1 week from tomorrow, the 22nd, you will have your 2024 Barbecue Hall of Fame class announced, along with the folks that make up the, what do you call it? Not the legends, but we have the living members, and then the, why can't I think of what that's called? Somebody in the instant chat, tell me what that category is called that I can't see. Legacy, of course, is what I'm trying to say. So we'll learn who the legacy members, and then I was talking about with Robert, we'll see if there's an impact award. Impact award is not mandatory if they don't feel that an impact award is necessary. It's not something that they put out every year. But in this Best Moment show this coming Friday, you'll hear what was happening there. You'll also hear my parents join the show, which is rare. You can subscribe to not only the Best Moments, but this show by going to thebbqcentralshow.com/subscribe. And don't forget, if you want to hear a past guest or segment that you feel has been lost in the archives, email John and let him know what you would like to hear. John, Jon, at thebbqcentralshow.com, and he'll do his best to meet your expectation. Also, don't forget, we are only 4 days away from the 2024 version of the Famous Dave's All-Star Barbecue Challenge Series. Not one, but two opening week contests, one in Fresno, California, and one in a place called Union Gap, Washington. So if it's not one, it's two opening days. And as Mike McLeod said a couple weeks ago, they probably could have done 6 or 7 different opening locations during that first weekend. But two was going to be all the bandwidth that they could handle for that. So in these first two opening weekends here on the 18th, so 4 days from now, not only do the teams have an opportunity to win a cash award, that's nice. The Grand Champ and Reserve Grand Champ win bids to the barbecue portion of the 2024 World Food Championships, which will be in Dallas. No. Move to my favorite city across the land, Indianapolis, Indiana. Right. Going to Indy, baby. So for all of the info on the upcoming season, for other locations that might happen during the course of the year, remember this runs from now until the end of August. And then you have the World Food Championships in Indianapolis in the beginning of, was it the beginning of November? Shaky on that from a weather standpoint. We're still very concerned about that, but 90% of it's going to be inside, as Mike McLeod said, so don't worry about it. And the website is worldfoodchampionships.com/allstars. Once again, that's worldfoodchampionships.com/allstars. And 54% of you are still saying that you believe that Sam's Club can build or can sell a well-built, feature-rich grill at a value price. We'll ask Jim Minion what his thoughts on that here are in just a second. Yeah, so let's go ahead and cut it there. I have some other stuff that I could get into, but I'm not going to have the time to mull through it. And don't forget, if you are a competitor and you missed out on that Famous Dave series last year, there were still a very small handful of locations that had open spots. I think it was $100 to reserve your spot in there for your chance to win a cash award and then going down to the World Food Championships, depending on how you place. So let's get at it. Before we talk to Jim Minion, let's talk about that badass Primo grill that everybody's talking about. What do we know about it? Is it round in size? No. And that's what makes it the best, because it's not round. It's not like everything else. It's oval. Now, you might think, oval, round, what's the difference? Well, getting a little bit more of that stretch, a little more of that oblongedness, which is not a word. Now you do have the ability to really set up a 2-zone fire that you might want to be using. It also comes with a separator if you really want to get down to segregation of coals and non-coals. Stick the separator right down there in the middle. You can put the coals on the left or the right side, leave the other side completely open. If you want to go indirect to a certain degree, meat over where there's no coals, then you have the coal side burning away. If you want to go fully indirect, now you can add a deflector plate on top of that heat, make it truly indirect and 2-zone. When the ceramics heat up, now you're really in for the major benefits. Extended cook times, especially if you light it the right way. We'll talk about that next segment. Also, these things are what I call fuel misers. You get some of these cookers, they get up to temperature, and they are affected with whatever weather climate you're in. If you're in really cold weather, really windy weather, they're not made all that well. The heat just glides right out of it, or the tolerances are letting in too much wind. You don't want that. Spike temperatures, and then the charcoal is having to work even harder to maintain the temperature. You might run out of fuel. Who knows in an overnight cook? Not with the Primo. Those ceramics heat up. You got endless time. Here's the bottom line. Best ceramics in the biz? Yes. Made here in America, baby? Yeah, it is. If you just have to have a round one because you can't get it out of your head, they do have a round option, but don't do that. Break the mold. Not literally, but get out of it. Forget about green. Forget about red. Let's go black. Let's go oval. Let's go Primo. Only sold through dealers. Find one near you. PrimoGrill.com. That's PrimoGrill.com. Bunch of accessories as well. And don't forget, XXL is in pre-order. So if you want the biggest one they have currently, get the XXL. We're back with Jim Minion right after this. Stick around. Be right back.
You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Howard Stern, Jim Rome, Dan Patrick, and Greg Rempe. The Mountain Rushmore of talk show entertainment. Now, let's get back to the Barbecue Central Show.
Welcome back. This portion of the show being brought to you by Pit Barrel Cooker, the most unbelievable outdoor cooking device on the planet. Currently available in 3 sizes with a host of accessories. Doesn't matter if you're a beginner or a professional, it's a cooker you want to add to the arsenal. You visit pitbarrelcooker.com and tell them the Barbecue Central Show sent you. I had a great conversation on the phone with Noah and Amber Glanville. Rare do I catch them both in a car on the same call. But not only were we talking about a little bit of business, we're also talking a lot about nonsense, and I'm not going to bore you with that. And by bore you, I mean offend you, because it got a little classless. And that's why I'm going to keep it classy. My guest in the second hour, a barbecue legend. And for those of us that really know him, he is whatever is above the rank of legend. If you use a can, a drum, a bullet style smoker, you have inevitably fired it up the way my next guest devised it. Lo, these many decades ago. If you have ever seen the acronym MM or seen the phrase the method, it is referencing my next guest. So let's welcome back a very long-time friend and legend, the one, the only Jim Minion joins me here on the show. Jim, I would be lying if I said this was the first time I've seen you face-to-face, but as of yesterday, I think that was the first time I had ever seen you face-to-face. So very happy to see your face, more happy to have you on the show. And it's been a number of years since the first time you were on, maybe back in 2008 or 2009 when the show was just getting its live legs going. I was asking you YouTube poll question of the week. Do you think that Sam's Club can sell a well-built, feature-rich grill at a value price?
I think any of these companies can do it if they want to. Mm-hmm. The question is, do they want to?
52%.
What corners are they going to cut?
Yeah, well, right. 52% of the YouTube voting public agree with you and agree with me that we believe that that can actually happen. 48% are saying no. Is there a story of Jim Minion before the barbecue stuff, or has it always been a part of your life?
I grilled like everybody else in their backyard. I was not good at it. I didn't start actually doing barbecue until 1998. I was 51 years old. I took a class with Paul Kirk out here in the Pacific Northwest, and we cooked brisket, pork butt, chicken, and ribs. We made our own rubs. And then they ran it like a contest, and the stuff was judged. And we ended up coming in second and my partner and I decided to go ahead and try competing. So, our first year competing, we won Idaho State Championship.
So they say that my hook was set at that point?
Yeah, and I have a tendency to, when I get into something, kind of maybe go a little overboard. And so it's, barbecue became a thing, yeah.
In 99, different than 2024, where you appear to have access to all sorts of information. You can sign up for everything under God's green earth. How are you even finding out that there's a barbecue class coming to your neck of the woods?
A buddy of mine, the guy that I cooked with originally, he heard about it through the Pacific Northwest Barbecue Association. And so it was a class that they held. And that's how we got involved. But yeah, you didn't hear about it much.
Were there a lot of contests?
Especially what did we have? Maybe 9 or 10. But we have out here in the Pacific Northwest, we got to travel because they get spread out. So it's anywhere from Western Washington to Eastern Washington to Oregon to Idaho to Montana. Oof. If you want to do a lot of competitions, you're traveling.
Back in the day, what are you cooking on? Not only in the backyard, but for those competitions?
We were cooking on a small, close offset. It wasn't a trailer unit. We just put it in the back of the pickup and went off. Not the ideal way to cook a competition. The second year, we actually built a offset pit, but we didn't have it tuned yet for one of the biggest contests of the year. So that's how I ended up buying a Weber Smokey Mountain.
What were you doing for a job if you're just getting into barbecue at 51? I think there's a fascination this day and age where everybody's trying to do live fire is the main gig. I assume that's not the case for you, especially given the age that you had found it. So what else were you doing to supplement the income?
I was in the car business. I worked for a mega dealer out here. I was the fleet manager for 10 different car lines, selling to the government and businesses and stuff like that. So that's where my income came from. That's the reason we could afford to go do it, was because of that job.
When you look at what you were doing competition-wise, there's some other things we'll talk about a little later, but just from a high level, how do you look at competitions now? Maybe you don't even compete versus what it was like when you were doing it back in 99, 2000.
Well, the basics are still the same. The rules have been changed. Fads you go through, a sauce here, a sauce there, a rub here, a rub there. With Weber Smokey Mountain, there's a lot of automation now. People are putting fans and all kinds of stuff on them. Not that I didn't have one available to me, because when the barbecue guru came out at the very beginning, I ran into him at, can't remember if it's American Royal or the Jack Daniels, and he gave me one because he wanted my ideas on it. So I didn't actually use it for long. I've been doing this for so long that it's by memory, by touch, by feel. And it's kind of the same thing when I was using offsets. I would touch them, and I could tell you when I needed to add wood, that type of thing. So it just comes from lots of cooking.
You still compete?
No, it's too much work. I got a bad back.
The last time we talked, you were Two Loose Screws Catering. You still do some type of barbecue catering, or are you out of that as well?
I don't do it officially, but I live in a retirement community, and we got a golf league here. I cook for that. I cook for family. I cook for friends. So, I still cook, but not catering or anything like that.
Depending on the audience, they see the last name Minion, and maybe it sparks a association with this thing that we've come to know about, the Minion Method. So I don't know if anybody's gone through the old forums to hear the recount of how this actually came to be, and for the folks that are just tuning into, this is the guy that invented the Minion Method. This is him, Minion Jim Minion. Take us back to the creation of the Minion Method. How did it happen?
We were cooking in a regional championship, and we had that pit that we had just built I was talking about, and it wasn't tuned correctly. So I sent my wife to get a Weber Smokey Mountain at the local fireplace shop. She came back with it, I put it together. I go, how am I going to light this? Some backstory, I'd met Chris Lilly, and he was cooking on Jed Masters.
Yep.
So I watched the racetrack thing going on the Jed Master. So I kind of used that as an inspiration. Poured in some charcoal, pour lit charcoal over the top, and the rest of it's kind of history. I don't even do that anymore. Nowadays, I use mainly lump charcoal, and I've got a weed burner, and that's how I started. And I've done it, like I said, for so long and so much that I just know how much that I need to heat to get what temperatures I want.
When did you know that this Minion thing was going to be of legendary status?
I went on Ray's Kansas City Barbecue Forum back in 99, 98. I was started in 98. And somebody just happened to say, I'm using Weber's directions, and I can't get this pit under 350 degrees because they told you to light off all the charcoal and make sure it was all burning. So I just wrote down what it was I did. And then the questions started coming fast and furious. And within a matter of less than a month, one of the guys on the forum said, well, I tried the Minion Method and it really works. At that point, I started hearing from people from all over the United States, Canada, South America, Australia, South Africa, Europe. I literally was hearing from people all over the world.
Wow.
I figured maybe something happened.
It's really, I said it was a revolution in people lighting their bullet style smokers. And when you look at one specific, you'd mentioned the Weber Smokey Mountain. I fear, had I not found the Virtual Weber Bullet website, that I would have never found you, learned about the Minion Method, and most likely I would have ditched my Weber Smokey Mountain because, as you were talking about, I'm a follow directions guy. So the first time I used it, I was like, holy shit, I'm never going to see 300 degrees, let alone 225, because I have a raging belly fire in the bottom of this Weber Smokey Mountain. And having access to that forum and then learning about the Minion Method really saved my barbecue life. And really, you've kept me in this game, whether you knew it or not, because if I never would have figured out how to control the temperature, I'd been like, screw this, and I, would have found some other hobby. Did you know? So you just knew inherently or through your intermittent expertise of fire management that building temperature was going to be a better way to go than obviously trying to knock a hotter fire down?
I kind of understood, like, if you take unlit charcoal and you put hot charcoal on top of it, it's going to, and then add air to it, the mixture, it's going to burn down. People go, what about the smell? Well, the fire on top actually works as a catalytic converter to a degree and takes away 99% of that smell. Using lump charcoal helps a lot too. But like I said, I had seen the Jed Master, so I knew that it worked. Chris Lilly was doing a hell of a job back in those days. I mean, he was winning contests big time back then. And so, we became friends, quite good friends since then. But it was interesting. What's really interesting for me is that you're advertising Primo cookers. When they first came out, Ray Lampe was the spokesperson for Big Green Egg.
Yeah.
And he and I were close friends. And so when Primo came out, they knew about our friendships in some way. They got a hold of me and sent me 5 cookers.
5?
And 5.
Wow.
Some of the first shipment got broken on the way. But so I get the cooker. I actually build a trailer for it so I can suspend the cookers to a degree so they don't get beat up on the road. And I cooked for them for 3 years. I also was able to, they were having a real problem with the fireboxes breaking up. The ceramics wasn't right. And being out here in Seattle, you've got some people in Boeing that in aerospace that were able to actually help them create a better mixture for those ceramics, and the rest is kind of history.
So you were dealing with George originally out there?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
So they've obviously sold to Empire Comfort Systems maybe 4 years ago or something like that, and now they're under new ownership. They got a really cool factory down in Illinois somewhere, I believe, or maybe it's Missouri, somewhere kind of south in the southern part of the state, and it's been really nice to see them, grow and advance a little bit, because I thought that the ceramic market over the last 10 years has been pretty stale. There hasn't been a lot of great marketing. There hasn't been a lot of really noticeable influencers from a social media standpoint that say, hey, we're cooking on ceramics. I thought they were kind of dying out, but there does seem to be a little bit of a tick up in interest in ceramics in general. Yeah.
I think price point might play a role in part of that, because they are inherently a little more expensive. But they can do things that a lot of other cookers can. Like, if you want a pizza oven, they're a pizza oven. If you want a grill, they're a grill. If you want to smoke, you can get them down. And like you advertised, once you get the ceramics up, keeping the temperature where you need it is not a problem. Putting on a lot of smoke that can be a problem. They're not smoky.
In 2007, you sat on what has become the most downloaded podcast my show has ever experienced. You were sitting on a brisket panel with the likes of Ray Lampe, who we just talked about, Fast Eddie Morin, FEC cooker, also a competitive cook, and Leanne Whippen, and we did a brisket roundtable. Within the minutes of that particular show, 75% of the dais took a shit all over Wagyu beef. Jim Minion was the only guy that had experience using it on a fairly regular basis, probably had obviously fairly regular access to it. And when we look where we're at here in 2024, it seems to be something that you couldn't possibly live without. How did that evolution happen?
There's a meat packer company out here. What is their name? But they're out of Idaho.
Snake River Farms.
They were raised Snake River Farms. They were raising a mix. They called it Kobe Black Angus mix. Well, it was Wagyu Black Angus. So it wasn't straight Kobe or straight Wagyu. From there, we actually did meet a guy out of Texas that was raising Wagyu. And then we also were contacted by some people out of Australia that were raising pure Wagyu. And so we were getting it back in those days, though. Was it more expensive than, say, just Black Angus? Yes, but it was like $2.38 a pound. Today, we all know what, $160, $180, $200 for a brisket. But we, believe it or not, two loose screws in 2008, I believe it was. We bought more of their Wagyu Black Angus than anybody. That included chain store, grocery stores, meat markets, everybody. We were their number one client.
Wow.
I cooked a ton of that beef at the Oregon State Fair in 11 days, along with a ton of pork and a half ton of ribs.
Wow. You're talking literal measurements here, literal ton, literal half ton.
No, I'm talking 5,000 pounds of meat.
Yeah, wow.
I had a commercial cooker at the time. I had a commercial cooker. It was an old Hickory that I had, and it was running 24/7 for 11 days, and the grease was going away in 55-gallon drums.
Wow. So Wagyu has seen a huge rise in popularity, fully accessible to pretty much everybody. If you don't have a local supplier that you can grab it at, you can certainly get it online in a myriad of different places. I thought Karabuta pork was going to have a moment about 3 or 4 years ago. And then that one still hasn't seemed to really tip it. If you get some of that Duroc, some of the heritage breed stuff, but it never seemed to really strike the same type of popularity chord that Wagyu did. I know you were very versed in using that too with the catering. Are you surprised that it didn't achieve the same type of general population success that the Wagyu did?
I honestly, heritage pork, in my opinion, is absolutely fantastic. Supply is the problem. It's hard to supply, and if you do find it, it's usually fairly expensive. But it's pork that's got fat in it. It's not. They haven't bred it out of the meat, and the differences to me are the flavor's better, the end product's better. But it turns out that a lot of people have never had good pork. Mm-hmm. They just haven't had it. So they taste it and they just don't know what it is. This is weird. Well, yeah, that's what pork tastes like. But I love this stuff.
What have been the 2 or 3 biggest changes just in live fire in general? It doesn't have to be competition stuff, but what are the 2 or 3 biggest changes you think have happened during your time in it?
Well, a lot of it had to do with the competition world. I don't know if I might hurt some people's feelings, but
That's fine. Nobody listens.
Back in 99 to 2000, 2001, if you look at the different organizations, there was a lot of whoever ran it also could decide who was going to be the winner of the competition before the competition was held. There were a lot of guys on the boards of these groups that were in it for the money. You weren't supposed to be. You told everybody you weren't, but you were in it for the money. And it was, I got into trouble. I said some things online, and KCBS said if I kept talking like this, they're going to get rid of me. And I said, do you really want to do that? Because I'm holding back.
Yeah.
Because I'm on the board. If you get rid of me, I'll just let it all go. They decided maybe I should stay. But yeah, that part was interesting. I'm hoping that it got better. It's changed so much since I was doing it. I was trying to do a thing on the West Coast, and basically some health problems and just I didn't have the time with doing my regular work and doing this, trying to get money, and I just didn't have time to do it all. So, but I was getting guys from California and like that coming in up and down the coast, which hadn't been going on. It was usually the guys in the Pacific Northwest. Once in a while, they go to California, and you might see one guy from California come up here, that type of thing. But like I said, the travel's long. It's hard.
How do you think pellet cookers have affected the backyard enthusiasm for live fire? And has it been positive?
If you can learn some techniques to get some smoke out of them, they can be just fine. And if you're catering, doing something like that where you've got a lot of stuff to do, pellet cookers are great. I won 2 Traegers and sold them before we left the contest.
Really?
I owned a trailer, the one number 99 trailer made from Traeger's made. Now, on the other hand, you were talking about Fast Eddie. I knew Fast Eddie and Ray and all those guys. Well, Ray and I cooked on Fast Eddie's cookers in different places, and honestly, they're a great cooker. You can get more smoke flavor. You're not going through 50, 100 pounds of pellets in a cook. They were insulated. It was a great cooker. Difference in price was quite a bit. But I don't have any problem with them. If it's really hard to get smoke on them. You almost need a smoke generator to get enough smoke.
Anything you have coming up that you want to promote, or well, let me ask you a better question. Through the whole Minion Method stuff, did you ever get any type of recognition or an award from Weber specifically? Because I know that was attached to the Weber Smokey Mountain quite a bit, saying, hey, as an alternative way of lighting, you might want to consider this thing called the Minion Method.
Well, I don't know if most people realize this, but in 99, Weber was talking about discontinuing the Weber Smokey Mountain because the sales were garbage.
Really?
And I came up with this. Their sales turned around. And the only thing they did for me, they didn't talk about me. They didn't do anything at that time. But if I got a hold of them saying I needed a part for the cooker, they just sent it to me.
Yeah.
I didn't have to pay for it. Later on, Jamie, what's his name? I forget his last name. He was writing the cookbooks for Weber.
Oh, Jamie provides.
Yeah, you're right. And he got a hold of me and he said, Jim, I'm doing a wooden charcoal cookbook and I have to talk to you. So I sent him a recipe for a rub. We did an interview on what the method was. They cooked it. Then they came up and did a camera shoot up here, and they posted. They did in that cookbook is that recipe and pictures and explanation of the Minion Method. I've had other things other cookbooks and other publishing that's been done on some of the stuff that my partner and I did. Car Dog's salmon. I don't know if you've ever heard of that.
No,
but it's kind of a West Coast Indian close type of way of smoking salmon. Sunset Magazine, Southern Living, Fiery Foods all published that. Ray Lampe's put a few recipes for me in his books. One of the funniest ones is Fiery Foods came up. We gave them the salmon recipe. They went back and she got a hold of me and said, Jim, I was looking on the internet and you have a recipe for andouille. Can we publish it? And I just went, no, that's just wrong. And she goes, we can't have it. I said, no, you can have it, but nobody goes to Seattle for an andouille recipe when you're from Baton Rouge.
But it had to have been good, right?
It was good.
Yeah.
It was good.
For the folks that are listening, that are just getting into live fire and they're in the Pacific Northwest, how does the weather affect your cooking process out there, or does it not matter?
If you can learn to cook up here, you can literally cook anywhere in the country because we get our share of rain. Now, some of the worst weather I've ever had to deal with was in Kansas City in October during the Royal.
Yeah.
I mean, rain coming sideways at you for 3 days. But you learn you can build yourself a block to block the wind. You learn which vents to use on the bottom of the pit so you're not getting wind blew up the backside. There's ways to do it. I cooked year round. I mean, all the time. So a pop-up can help.
Yeah.
It's just it'll slow you down if you want it to, but doesn't have to.
Jim, I have to say this has been an absolute treat for me. We go way back to just communicating through texts on barbecue forums, back 2004 or 2005 when I was first starting to get into it. So to have you back on the show and just kind of play catch up a little bit really means the world to me. And again, you're kind of, one of the reasons that I've been able to stay in it so long. And without your help, maybe there would have been no show and no ongoing support for the forum. So I just want to give you my thanks and always appreciate the conversation. And thanks for coming on today.
Hey, can I say one thing before we leave?
Please.
I'd like to do a shout out to Carla Hadley. She got a hold of me from Texas and said, I heard you were on the show, and I haven't seen her in a long time. It was special to hear from her.
All right. Well, Jim, thanks for coming on, and let's not have so much time in between the next visit.
You got it, my man. You can always try to get a hold of me.
I will. Appreciate it, Jim. Thanks so much for coming on. And a shout out to Carla, who's visiting there in the chat room. So, boy, that was great. Great conversation there. And real special for me, so maybe a little self-indulgent, I don't know, but that's fine. It's my show. Great hearing how the stories happened, what it was like back in the day, how the Minion Method came to pass, and then how all of a sudden it catches on and he's getting emails from all over the globe about the Minion Method, how to do this, how to do that. I had no idea it was 51 years old when he started getting into it. That would have been like 20 some years ago. So I wasn't even in it that long. He probably had 4 or 5 years ahead of me. Yeah, 5. He started in 99 and I was starting my forum back in 2004 before the podcast and all that. So Unbelievable. Appreciate Jim Minion for that. Let's talk about Franklin Barbecue Pits, because they are a premium offset pit available for sale right now. They have a dealer network that continues to grow. So if you have a barbecue supply store, you're looking to carry premium line cookers, and you don't have an offset line, or you're looking to add an offset line, why not give Franklin's a try? Go to the website, franklinbbqpits.com, fill out the dealer form, and then my man Matt Gase will give you a call and get you set up. I recommend putting in that initial order of 4 or 5. You do a little marketing on your end. Tell everybody, come in, check it out on the show floor, feel it, touch it, because you can feel the 1/4 inch thick steel. You know, when it sees heat, it's going to be constructed very well in order to take that heat, give you the heat retention that you need to make the great barbecue, and it's got its own patina, it's got its own personality, it's got a lot of stuff built into it that a lot of people don't think about, that you won't realize until you're lifting the lid, and that bar that you're lifting the lid with just kind of rolls with your wrist. Little things like that. Plus, it's got a badge number, makes it yours. By the way, if you don't live near a dealer and you still want to buy one, you go to franklinbbqpits.com and you order one there. It will ship right to the bottom of your driveway from Franklin Barbecue Pits. They also, if you're a supply store, have other accessories and sauces, rubs, cookbooks, little extra revenue lines for you to bring into the store as well. franklinbbqpits.com. That's franklinbbqpits.com. I was just talking with Aaron earlier today, and we're working out a date to have him back on the show and talk about maybe some non-barbecue stuff. We're coming back to wrap the show. We'll get a ending poll result. So stick around, and we'll be right back.
Whole packers, full racks, legs and thighs, injecting butts. If you've never heard this before, you might think you found the best XXX show ever. Let's get back to the most homoerotic host out there today, Craig Rempe.
And we thank Jim Minion, barbecue legend, for joining us last segment and change. This portion of the show being brought to you by Big Papa Smokers. Listen up, gang. Something special just for you listeners of the show. Doesn't matter if you're a seasoned vet or new. Big Papa's offering the listeners of the show a special deal. Use promo code REMPE at checkout, REMPE. You get $10 off your next $50 purchase of rubs, sauces, and accessories. Don't forget to use promo code REMPE at checkout to claim your next $10 off your next order of $50 or more. And don't forget to check out Big Papa's full line of recipes at cookingwithbigpapa.com. And of course, follow them on all the social media channels and platforms as well. And I think that catches me up as we get ready to run out of time here this evening. So let's go ahead and get after it. If you missed any of the show, you're just tuning in now. Too bad. You can catch it on podcast. By the way, I meant to mention, if you are in the market, because I saw it in the instant chat, if you're in the market for a griddle, there's a thing called, I think it's called Doorbuster at Sam's Club. The same folks that are making this grill we're talking about, Winners, makes a Members Mark 5 burner. It's got to be 36 inches long, wide. They make a 5 burner griddle for $3.99. Like insane price for the size and what you can get. So, if you're in the market for a griddle and you remember Sam's Club, A, check out the gas grill that we're talking about, the Members Mark Pro Series with the patented thermostatic control. But then also look at that 5-burner griddle for $3.99. I mean, you're out with a 5-burner Pro Series gas grill and a huge griddle for about $1,000. No better deal than that. Great. Don't forget, this coming weekend, we have Memphis in May, and we have Smoke Slam. Probably have wrap-up next week. Maybe we get a winner somewhere. We'll see how that goes. Matt Osman, the embedded correspondent in Tennessee, is going to be embedded at times in both locations. He's got a recorder. We'll have some live sound potentially, depending on how it sounds. So stay tuned for that. It is a third Tuesday of a month. Wait a second. Now wait a damn minute. I'm sorry.
A Barbecue Central Show exclusive news update.
Greg Rempe reporting from the breaking news desk here in Cleveland, Ohio, the city that breaks the most live fire breaking news across the country, nay, the globe. Programming note, the show next week moves to Wednesday, but only next week. It's not an ongoing thing. Little one, youngest one, graduates from high school Tuesday evening. I don't know if I'm going to have enough time to do that and then get back for the show. So instead of just canceling the show next week, which we never want to do, we're moving the whole entire show. Everybody's already on board. Steven Reichlin, Wes Wright, Brianna Stark, the whole deal said that Susie Bullock said they would move to Wednesday next week. So no live show Tuesday. Huge day of live shows on Wednesday. We will announce the 2024 Barbecue Hall of Fame class at 3 p.m. on Wednesday, and then we will have the normal Barbecue Central show on Wednesday night. So programming note, no show next Tuesday. The show will be next Wednesday, the 22nd, from 9 to 11. I trust to have served you with this information. So, how do I always leave you? September 11th, 2001. I will never forget. Until next Wednesday, this time only. This is your program host and proud U.S. American, Greg Rempe. Good night now.
This is Dion Blumenrader with Big Hoss One Sauce, and you're listening to the best show on all things barbecue with my man, Greg Rempe.